We are now going to take a look at updating database data. That is a little bit different than inserting new data into the database. What we want to do is take the data that's already stored in the database and modify it. I'll close up my properties area down here so you can see this form just a little bit better. Now within this form, we have our tour information, and the idea is we need to populate these fields with the information in the database. But what tour information should go into each of these fields? Well, it should be the tour information for a specific tour. So this page is going to be receiving information from a listing of our tours. So this is where the process will begin. This page is going to list all of our tours in our tours table, and the user will be able to choose, and this will be an admin person within our organization. Now, if I hover over one of these and you look right down in this area, you'll see that there's a tour ID attached to each one of these. This hyperlink is passing that tour ID to the next page. When I click on this page, we don't have it on the server yet, but this update data page is going to take that tour ID, query the database for that specific tour's information, and put it into the form. Then once we have it showing to the user will be able to change the data, and when they click the form button, so on this page, we'll fill it out based on the tour ID being passed, and then they'll change any of this information within our form, click Update Record, and that will change the data to whatever is listed at that point in time. So the Update List page is really the page that is going to have all the action on it. The Update Tour has already been set up, the hyperlink is there, and the tour ID is being passed. So let's work on this page with creating a URL variable that will capture that information, and then we can use that to query the database to pull out information. So I will close up this behaviors area, and what I want to do is go to the bindings tab. Now within the bindings tab, we need to create a record set, pulling out information from the database. So we'll set that up, but before we do, let's create a URL variable on this page. We're going to do that using tour ID. Our update tour page is sending this page a tour ID. So let's tell this page about it. And what we can do is use that tour ID to query the database. Now that that's set up, we need to create the record set to do this. So we'll go in here, and this is going to be Q get tour info. Connection is we're going to use the unique database. The table we're going to select is the tours table. Now what we want to pull out are just the selected fields. So we want to pull out the tour ID. We're going to pull out each one of these fields. So we're going to do tour name, description, days. I'm just matching this up with each one of our form fields. Meals included, and diver cost. What we're going to do is filter this information. We're going to take the tour ID. We're going to use the tour ID for this query based on the tour ID being passed in. That's coming from our update tour page as a URL. So we'll pull that in. We don't need to sort because it's only one piece of data. So let's test this process. And in order to do that, we need to provide a tour ID. So I'll put in the number 5, click OK, and we got that exact information coming out of the database. Perfect. So we'll click OK. So we're starting to combine a few of these things we've done throughout the course. Now, how do I get this record set information we pulled out for our tour into these fields? And what we do is use the properties area to do this. This is similar to the menu. If you've gone through the course, you may have done that already. So I'm going to select tour name here. Here's my lightning bolt for that field in the properties area. I'll click on that, and notice that's going to be my tour name. So I'll click OK. There's information put in there. Tour description. I'll select this one, hit the dynamic button. That's tour description. So we just go through each form field and populate it based on our information. So this one is going to come from our get tour information. The value is going to be total days. The label is going to be total days. So we're going to put the same information in both of these. And this will be set to tour days. Now our static options here we don't need anymore. So what I'll do is get rid of those. Don't need a listing of all of them. I'll just keep going here. Okay. And meals included, we'll check this one. Our dynamic data is going to populate this one as well. And so we don't need these static ones. This will come out of our database. So get tour ID, and this one is going to be meals included. The label will be meals included, and our value, meals included. Click OK. You'll see the information moves out of here. And our last one is cost per diver. Let's plug that one in. Diver cost. Now let's test and see if this portion is working. And we need to start on the update tour page to get our tour ID. So let's put this into the browser. There's our tour ID. I'll select Antarctica. The tour ID is passed in, and our update data page is not showing up in our local host. So our update, let's make sure that tour name is correct. And I'll go back into the code here. We may have, update data, and it's not update data, it's update list. So we can easily correct that one. All right, we'll put this back in the browser. Click Antarctica, and there it is. It's pulling the data from our database out into this form. Now what I can do is I can modify data. You can see this tour days needs a little correction because I don't have the other information in here anymore. But let's just change the cost. I'm going to add a tour description instead. Let's say this dive adventure requires a dry suit. I'll bet it does. Wow, that would be cold. And I'll change meals. Now notice this one needs to be corrected also. So I got rid of all the static options here. We will need to modify that. And let's set this to the price has gone up to $19.99. So what we want to do is look for an extra sentence in Antarctica in our database and a change in our cost to $19.99. Now I selected update record. I don't have anything to update the record. So that's the next piece we need to do. You can see everything sat here just as it was before. So let's go add the update record piece. So I'll go over to Design View and we'll go down here to Update Record. Now this is similar to the Insert Record server behavior. So we're going to go over to the Server Behaviors area, hit the plus sign, and we'll do Update Record. This is going to be our tours table. All of these should match up just fine. And we'll just go through that real quickly, eyeballing it. I name them the same name, so Dreamweaver should take care of this for us. And after updating, we aren't sending them anywhere. This particular area here, we don't need to modify at all. After updating, well, let's send them back to Update Tour. We can use that original page. One column needs to be the primary key. Now, here is the deal with this one. Now, we're getting a message that mentions the primary key. And whenever you update or delete data from a database, you need to pass in the primary key. The reason for that is that primary key identifies the specific row of information you want to change or delete. Right now, our tour ID is not being used. So we need to tell the update piece what record to use. And the easiest way to pass that information in is to put a hidden form field in this form. And you have a variety of locations where you can put it. What I'll do is simply select this button, put my cursor in front of it by hitting the left arrow key. I'm going to go out to the Forms area, and I'm going to select Hidden Field, the third icon here. What this does is allow me to pass in some information to the next page or to a process, and the user cannot modify it. So I'm going to say Tour ID, and the value of that Tour ID is going to come from our Tour ID in the record set. This is why when I built the query, I included this value. So Tour ID will be matched up with whatever the Tour ID is for this specific tour. So now if we do Update Record, we shouldn't have any difficulty. So I'll hit the plus, click on Update Record. This is going to be our Tours table. Notice Tour ID selects record from form.tour_id. So that hidden form field is passing in our Tour ID. After updating, we will send them once again out to Update Tour. Now we don't get that error message because Dreamweaver knows which row of data we want to update. So let's save the form. We'll put it back out in the browser, and I'll select the same information. Our tour description will be Dive with the Sharks in Fiji. I actually took my son to do that for his 21st birthday. Dive with the Sharks in Fiji. We'll just leave it at that. Total number of days, meals included, cost per diver. Now, what's wrong with what I'm doing? Well, you have to remember, this is not the page I want to start on. So I won't fill any more out. That's why those menus were empty. So I'll go over to the Update Tour page. This is the page I want to start with. So I'll click on Costa Rica. And I'll say, Costa Rica is a beautiful rainforest. And let's change the value. Costa Rica, let's call it Costa Rica Adventures. Sounds much better. And that price has gone up to $999. So we want to look for a name change. I added a sentence in the description, and I changed the cost per diver. Now notice we didn't get any type of error. We're put back here. So let's go look at the database and see if our data was actually changed. I'll right-click the Tours table, View Data, and our tour is now Costa Rica Adventures. Enjoy the quantity of wildlife. And here's my next sentence. This just isn't quite wide enough. Costa Rica is a beautiful rainforest. So you can see my update worked. So we were able to take database data, populate a form with that data, change the data, and insert the new data back into the database. So that is how you can work with Update a Tour and updating any type of database data using a form. Dreamweaver has these server behaviors that make it fairly simple to work with this information. It's a multi-page process, so you do have to remember which page you start on. And yes, these pages could be fine-tuned a bit more, but I wanted to get the main concepts of how to set up, insert, and update for database information. So if you have not viewed the insert movie, you may want to do that. These kind of go hand in hand together. Usually, you want to be able to insert data into a database if you also want to update database data. So that is a very cool feature in Dreamweaver. You just have to understand the process of how to work with it.